on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening, as you do every day, to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Brought to you by BetMGM.
The tremendous Football Thursday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. Loved the first hour of the show, talking about that debacle of a press conference in Buffalo with owner Terry Pegula and general manager Brandon Beane, where I don't think they covered themselves in glory for the whole Keon Coleman conversation, with video evidence proving that they are in fact lying about what happened there with Keon Coleman. Just like, no need to do that. Make the firing, make your new hire, move on. Why have that happen? If you're a Bills fan, I would understand why you would have some consternation about what's going to happen moving forward with your team. Even if I feel like you've got Josh Allen, I feel like it'll be okay. I certainly understand the anxiety that a lot of Bills fans probably have right now following that press conference. Also talked about how crazy it is that apparently no one wants to be the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator, with Brian Daboll apparently going to be the OC in Tennessee if he doesn't take a head coaching job, and Mike McDaniel going to L.A. to work with the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, and Justin Herbert. Maybe there's something to all the smoke out there that Jalen Hurts is one of the big problems in Philadelphia. And I haven't thought that's been the case. I've defended him. It's getting a little harder to defend as of right now. Drew Dinsick still to come next hour. His best bets for Conference Championship Sunday. Former Major League Baseball general manager Steve Phillips next hour to talk about the Mets trade for Freddie Peralta. Everything happening right now in Major League Baseball. And I'm going to tell everybody why Giannis Antetokounmpo needs to embrace his inner Hulk Hogan and become Hollywood and drop the leg on the Bucks and turn heel and get the hell out of Dodge. But joining us right now to start hour number 2, the great Brian Baldinger, Odyssey Sports NFL insider, host of the Best Football Show podcast. You can also catch Baldy on the call tonight on NFL Network, 8 p.m. Eastern, of the American Bowl with Mike Morgan doing play-by-play, Gabriella Cruz on the sideline. This is going to be awesome. 8 p.m. Eastern tonight on NFL Network. Insider calls brought to you by Nationwide for your insurance and financial needs. Nationwide is on your side. What's going on, my friends?
Well, just that, Nick. Thank you for the plug. I got a million notes over here. The American Bowl tonight in Orlando, Florida. It's a beautiful night for football. And I think it's the first Thursday, Nick, that we haven't had football, maybe since, the beginning of September. So if you need a football fix on a Thursday night, tune in tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I just want to be just really honest with you and the audience right now. I think the person in this country that is most acutely aware of the fact that there's no Thursday night football tonight is my wife. Let me tell you something.
Nick, or what?
If I text my wife and say, listen, my friend Baldy's calling the American Bowl tonight, I gotta be locked. I'm sending you the lawyer bills for my divorce. American Bowl coming up 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. There's so much for us to hit. We'll get to both games on Conference Championship Sunday. We'll talk about Jarrett Stidham, the Rams and the Seahawks, Drake May and the Patriots. Let's start, though, with Buffalo. The Bills firing Sean McDermott. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And then what we saw at this press conference and your thoughts on Brandon Beane and Terry Pegula.
Well, there's probably a reason why we don't see a lot of owners in press conferences. We saw Steve Bisciotti last week. That was pretty colorful. We saw Terry Pegula. There's a lot to pick at right there. There's no real reason to bring up Keon Coleman. There's just none. I mean, Keon Coleman helped him win games. He probably helped him not win some games. But to single out a single player like that, there's just no need for it. You can talk about, look, I made a decision here. Brandon Beane is going to be in charge of finding our next coach. It's really the story, all right? Whatever, if you thought Sean McDermott couldn't get you over the hump, that's fine. They just made that decision in Baltimore. They moved on. But if you have to feel like you have to go chapter and verse on every single thought about watching Josh Allen in tears in the locker room, like there's just really no need to go into any of that. Josh doesn't want to hear that. Keon Coleman doesn't want to hear it. I just think that it went too far and it wasn't necessary. But, he's the owner. He can do whatever he wants to do. But I didn't think it was necessary. And then, we'll see. The one thing about firing a guy like Sean McDermott, who I have a great deal of respect for, and got to know when he was on Andy Reid's staff and what Andy Reid thought of him way back when, is, all right, you want to fire a guy? I always say this, Nick. It doesn't matter if it's Buffalo, Baltimore, wherever. You want to fire your coach? Fine. Who are you getting? Who's replacing him? And I don't know that they know that yet, which is part of the process. But that's not an easy thing to do.
I want to play devil's advocate with you here. I did this with Herm Edwards on the show earlier this week, right? And look, you know how much I respect you. You've forgotten more about football than I know. But I just want my opinion on this, someone that's watched the league forever. I just think it reaches a point where this would be year 9 if they kept McDermott. The history of the league shows, like, this is unprecedented. If you're going to be together this long and have never reached a Super Bowl, like, you're probably not getting there. And to lose in the way that they did when they were the better team on Saturday, in my estimation, with no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Joe Burrow, if it's me, and I don't have to be right here, this is just my opinion, I would take my chances with literally anybody else to be, within reason, to be the head coach of the team. Because if you know behind door number 1 is someone that can't get you there, wouldn't you rather take your chances with whoever's behind door number 2, even if the floor is lower and maybe you have a bad year? At least you know that you have a better % chance of getting to the big game. Your thoughts on that thought process that I have, and I think that some other people have as well.
Well, how many years, Nick, did it take Bill Cowher to win a Super Bowl?
Well, Cowher was the head coach, and different quarterbacks, though, I guess would be my point there.
All right, but they still were patient 15 years. He's still a Super Bowl winning coach. It took 15 years. I understand your point, but just to change for change's sake, they've owned the division 5 out of the last 6 years. It always gets you, a ticket into the dance when you win the division. That's where you got to start. I'm not defending the decision by Terry Pagula. I just don't think in the press conference he had to go that far. But your point is valid. You probably, if you can't do it in 9 years, can you do it in 12 or 15? How much longer are you going to go? I don't have a problem with the decision. I just didn't think it was handled, all that. I think they just said a whole lot more than they needed to be said.
There's no, I don't think anyone could dispute that. Who would be, Baldy, and look, I don't know if we know who all the candidates are, but if Brian Baldinger, I think Bills fans might love this man. You should look into this. Brian Baldinger, president of operations, Buffalo Bills. I think Bills fans would rather have you right now than Brandon Beane. Who do you think would be the best hire right now, or at least one of the best hires to coach Buffalo and coach Josh Allen and coach up that defense next season?
Well, I think you have to really look at what Joe Brady has done. He won a national championship at LSU. With Joe Burrow, obviously he was an elite talent, but I don't think they lost a game. And Joe was a big difference coming in there. He really kind of rescued this offense that was struggling 2 years ago and really made it much better. I think you have to talk to Joe Brady. He's a young guy with a good, offensive mind. I think that would be a good starting point. But, there's guys out there right now that I think, if Mike McDaniel could take a job, it looks like he's going to be the coordinator with the Chargers, but I think you should talk to Mike. But I think, to say, okay, Brian Dable, maybe Brian Dable's second chance. He's a little bit better. Maybe he's got a better staff, because that was his issue. That's the problem, Nick, is that you can hire any of these guys. They might be qualified, but what is their staff? Like Aaron Kromer just resigned. Aaron Kromer was one of the top 5 offensive line coaches in this league. There's a big reason why James Cook won the rushing title this year. Not to knock James Cook, but what Aaron Kromer is teaching needs to be taught. He's a great coach. You're going to lose that. So, Brian Dable, I think, is a good coach. His staff, you fire Wink Martindale for what? You fire your offensive line coach for what? He made all these staff changes, and I didn't see improvement. And so getting the staff together, the longer you wait, the harder it is to get it together.
Just as a Giants fan, I do not think that would be a great hire for the Buffalo Bills at head coach with Brian Daboll. You bet on this Thursday. Odyssey Sports NFL insider Brian Baldinger is with us. Baldy will be on the call tonight, NFL Network, the American Bowl at 8 p.m. Eastern. Check it out tonight on NFL Network. What the hell's going on with the Eagles offensive coordinator search, and what do you think it means?
Well, I mean, look, if you go back to the search when they fired Doug Peterson, and they were 4-11-1, they missed on every head coach. Brandon Staley, Arthur Smith. Like they struck on everything. Andy Weidel, who was interviewing for the Atlanta Falcons GM job today, knew Nick Sirianni because he's a Pittsburgh guy, and Nick's brother was coaching at down the road in Pittsburgh and knew the family, knew him. And Nick Sirianni was about the 8th guy on the list, and he became a pretty good candidate. So while they might not be hitting all the big names right now, the most important thing is getting the right guy. And I don't think it has a lot to do with what people are speculating. Well, it's about the quarterback. It's about this. They've got talent on that team. They've got structure on that organization. They're not afraid to spend money. It's an attractive job. And you might, and they've won a Super Bowl and been to a Super Bowl with that quarterback. And it wasn't because everybody else was great and the quarterback was average. The quarterback's a Super Bowl MVP. He wins a lot of football games, the way that he plays. It's different than Justin Herbert, who doesn't win anything. It's different than Josh Allen, who hasn't won anything yet. It's a different style. And so, all right, I think they need some new ideas and new innovation. All right, let's find the best guy to do that. And if Mike McDaniel doesn't want the job or somebody else doesn't want it, I don't think it's because it's a bad job.
Why do you think it is?
Why do I think it's a good job?
No, why? So, like you said, you don't think that's why Mike McDaniel doesn't want the job. What would the reason be? And this is what I said earlier, right? If you're Daboll or you're a Mike McDaniel, you obviously want to be a head coach again. I look at the Eagles, they sent Steichen became a head coach, Kellen Moore became a head coach, huge media market, where you do well as the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia next year, you're probably going to get a head coaching job, in that cycle. So if that's true, and I think it is, why are they bypassing Philadelphia? I know how plugged in you, so this is not me putting you on the spot. I think that your information's better than mine. So I'm just asking, why do you think that is then, that they are bypassing this job in favor of others?
Well, I mean, it could be you'd rather live in Los Angeles, in that area, than in Philadelphia.
Fair.
Mike McDaniel's got a young family. It could be as simple as that, where you want to live. I've talked to Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier and those guys, and I've talked to, I know the coordinator that just got fired. It's not easy in that market when you're not winning or not playing well. It's not easy. They were egging the offense coordinator's house in Philadelphia, because they weren't playing well. It's a difficult place to coach. Kellen Moore kind of laughed it off, but they were struggling for a while before they won the Super Bowl. He was feeling the heat, it's a different market than a lot of these other places.
I think that's really fair. And I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan, and I've been a little surprised by what's happened with McDaniel choosing the Chargers, Daboll reportedly choosing the Titans if he doesn't get a head coaching job. I want to ask you about every single coaching vacancy and the ones that have been filled, but at some point we probably have to talk about Conference Championship Sunday, because that's pretty interesting also. So let's do that, my friend. Patriots at the Broncos for the AFC Championship. Just traveling back in time here. Drake May, obviously the quarterback of New England. Jarrett Stidham for the Denver Broncos. Now, Baldy, I know you know this, but once upon a time, a young 7-year-old Nick Kostos watched Jeff Hostetler lead the Giants to Super Bowl glory in Super Bowl 25. The betting market has been into the Denver Broncos the last couple days. The Patriots are favored, but this was 6. Now we're down to 4.5. And I think bettors, Baldy, don't see that huge of a difference. Bo Nix is better than Stidham, but don't see that big of a difference between the two. Where do you come down on that, Nix to Stidham, and what do you think we'll see on Sunday at Mile High for the AFC Championship?
Well, I've known Jarrett Stidham since he came out of Stephenville High School in Texas. He was recruited by Art Briles and, replacing RG3 a couple of years after RG3 left. But, that was going to keep Baylor in the top 10 program. And then things fell apart for Art Briles there at Baylor, and he traded out. But he was the number one high school recruited quarterback in the country back then. He went to Baylor, stayed in Texas. this guy's been a top flight quarterback. I mean, Sean Payton watched him as a Raider under Josh McDaniel carve up the San Francisco 49ers in 2022 for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards, and he looked great against the number 1 defense in football. And Sean took him and played a couple games when he got rid of Russell Wilson. And here's the thing. I think Jarrett Stidham knows how to play the game. I think he'll be fairly poised. But Championship Sunday, Nick, you're seeing the 4th-ranked defense in football. You saw what C.J. Stroud just did against that defense. Like, that secondary is as good as anybody in football. Christian Gonzalez, Marcus Jones, Carlton Davis. They're elite. Craig Woodson. They're an elite group. At some point, no matter what Sean Payton tries to do, from a game plan, from running the football, all the things that you'd want to do to protect and help your quarterback, at some point, he's going to have to make 3, 4, 5 throws to win the game, the way Drake May did last week. Even though he didn't play great, but he made the touchdown throw to Stephon Diggs, which was an elite throw, a stick throw, and a great catch, and the one to Kayshon Boutte to put the game on ice. At some point, Jarrett Stidham is either going to make the throws or he's not. And if he can, then Denver can move on to the Super Bowl. And while you mentioned, the Giants' backup quarterback, I mean, it was the same thing with Nick Foles in Philadelphia. He was awful the last 2 games, replacing Carson Wentz. He was terrible on Christmas against the Raiders. He was terrible against the Cowboys week 17. But he got better and better to the point where he's a Super Bowl MVP. And he made 10 unbelievable throws to beat the Patriots. So, can he make those throws in big spots? Because the defense isn't giving you a lot. And he's going to have to step up. And we'll see if he can or not. I don't know if the line is right or wrong right now. And how they're reading this thing. And if he can make the throws, Denver can move on to the Super Bowl.
Sounds like you think I don't want to put words in your mouth. Sounds like you like New England based on that answer. True, false?
I actually like Denver. I like Denver.
To win the game.
To win the game. Yeah, I like
Tell
Denver.
us why.
Because I think defensively, I think they're very talented. I don't think we've seen the best of Denver yet. Obviously, the Jaquan McMillan catch, no catch, interception, no interception probably was the difference in the game. But sometimes these things come down to a call in these big moments. But I feel like Denver's defense, we haven't even seen the best of them yet. I think that Jonathan Cooper hasn't done anything in any of these games. Like, he needs to wake up. Maybe he will. But I think they have what it takes in order to kind of stifle. Like, I don't think we saw weaknesses on the offense line of the Patriots last week, and that was at home. It's going to be harder. I know Will Anderson's not going to be out there this week, but Nick Bonito he's a piranha out there. His takeoff is as good as anybody's. Like, they've got guys that can rattle Drake May in this game, and it's going to be a tough atmosphere.
I don't know if it was Spencer Brown I think it was Spencer Brown, who was said after the game, and I saw it in the moment, held the you-know-what out of Jonathan Cooper on the play that Allen missed Dawson Knox at the end of regulation. I'm looking at I can't believe they missed that goal. That was the one where I would say Jonathan Cooper, maybe we have a different conversation about him if not for that hold that Spencer Brown admitted to. I don't know if we'll close with the Rams Seahawks in a second. I don't know if you're into I love this stuff. No one else has to be, and I mean that sincerely. It's legacy stuff, right? And the history of the league.
Yeah.
Let's say that Sean Payton gets this done, right? Which will be wins the Super Bowl with 2 different teams and has one with the backup quarterback. Now, Parcells did it with the backup quarterback, obviously, with Hostetler. The 86 Giants were the best team in the league that year. And I think you can even say, the year the Saints beat the Colts were big favorites in that Super Bowl. And the Saints beat them in the game by 2 scores. But the Saints, I think, I still think the Vikings were the best team that year, but obviously everything that happened at the end of that game here. Yep. If the Broncos get this done with a backup quarterback, Sean Payton has to ascend to that rarefied air that we reserve for the likes of Belichick, Landry, Noel, Reed.
No,
that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, no, he takes a big leap. He's already thought about he's got a Hall of Fame quarterback in one organization. He's never had a highly drafted quarterback where he had to develop. That's a whole different game that he's done with Bo Nix. And now if you've got to do it with the backup quarterback to go to another Super Bowl, I think it really he makes a big jump personally. And he would get a lot of respect from his idol, Bill Parcells, who he imitates, in my mind, a great deal of time. Inflections, attitude, giving the press a good whipping some days.
Yeah.
Like he learned a lot from Bill. It's funny to listen to because I hear Parcells when he talks, and he just knows he just knows how to push those buttons with players, with the media, how to get guys ready. It's a very young offensive team. Receivers, running backs, the whole thing, quarterback now. So it's different. Like when he won in New Orleans, Nick, they led the league in takeaways that year. He got Drew Brees a lot of extra at-bats. They don't lead the league in takeaways. It's been a problem. He's talked about it all season long. Last week they got him, and it helped him get over the hump with Buffalo.
What's so interesting about what you just said about Parcells, we'll close with Rams Seahawks in a second. I think it was Troy Renk. I think he works for the Denver Post, but he's covered the Broncos forever. And he brought up what Peyton said to the locker room in the wake of the Bo Nix injury. And he mentioned that when before the Giants played the Niners in the 1990, which was literally the 35th anniversary of that game was, I think, 2 days ago. I remember watching that game. What Parcells said to the locker room before the Giants on the Matt Barr 42-yard field goal as time expired to win 15-13 to stop the three-peat, that Parcells said, if we lose this game, it's not going to be because of Jeff Hostetler. It's going to be because one of you dumb mother effers does something effing stupid. That's why we're going to lose. And apparently, Peyton said the same thing to the Denver Broncos in a team meeting this week.
Oh, no, I'm telling you. But Parcells has that effect on everybody that's coached with them, been in that room with them, played for them. The stories are nonstop.
It's amazing, and I love this stuff. Rams and the Seahawks for the NFC Championship, Baldy. I and a lot of other people believe that this game is the Super Bowl. Winner of this game will win the Super Bowl. Do you believe that? And who do you think wins on Sunday in the Pacific Northwest? Seattle, a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I think Seattle's the best team. I know they had a miraculous comeback, a couple weeks ago, down 30-14, came back to win it in overtime. I know all the stuff that's happened. But Seattle, just being around that team, you can feel this rare chemistry that they have for everybody. Now, winning kind of manufactures that a bunch, but I think it's just real. And sometimes these coaches come in and it happens early in these coaches' career, where they got the team, they've listened to them, they've got the talent. Schneider's done a great job of building that team. I think no matter what Sam Darnold does, if he really just lays an egg, they're not going to overcome that. But even if he makes a mistake here or there, I feel like this team is good enough to overcome it because I think this team feels like they're here in this spot because of Sam, not because everybody else is great. But I feel like they've got all the pieces, receiver, the running back. I knew losing Charbonnet is a big deal, but Kenneth Walker is more than capable of handling the load. I feel like this is a team that is a rare team. I don't know that they can go on a run. I feel like this team this year has been the team to beat.
If the Rams play their A-plus game on Sunday and the Seahawks play their A-plus game, you think Seattle wins?
No, I think the Rams would win if they do that. But I don't
That's
know
what's
that
so fun, right? That's what's so interesting, right?
You're asking all the right questions. If Matt Stafford, who's seen this defense,
because they haven't been A-plus, right? In the first two playoff games, they were you could argue they're lucky to win both of them. But if it feels like if they can put the pedal to the metal, that's what's so fascinating about this, I think.
Yeah. Puka Devontae did very little in that game in Chicago, and they won the game. But Stafford is very difficult to confuse. The only way you really beat Stafford is if you hit Stafford and you really affect them. And they could do that. They're more than capable. Leonard Williams and the whole group out there is elite. But I feel like what Seattle does defensively, which is Mike McDaniel had the number one defense in Baltimore. They couldn't win a Super Bowl. They had the number one defense this year. The way he teaches it with the talent that he has, it's very, very tough on a quarterback. But if there's one quarterback that can handle what they throw at you and the receivers that he has, it's the Rams. They're capable of defeating this defense, which is, San Francisco couldn't score a touchdown in the last two games they played.
I have had goosebumps listening to that answer. This is like football nirvana coming up on Sunday. This is going to be the best. Baldy, we love you, man. Can't wait to watch you in the American Bowl tonight on NFL Network. I may DVR it just because I'd like to keep my marriage going. 8 p.m. Eastern tonight with Mike Morgan and Gabriella Cruz. Baldy on the call of the American Bowl. My friend, thank you so much. Enjoy Championship Sunday.
Thank you, Nick. Talk next week, buddy. See you, man.
The great Brian Baldinger joining us here on You Better You Bet, host of the Best Football Show podcast. Insider Calls brought to you by Nationwide. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. More You Better You Bet on a Thursday. Westwood One Sports coming up next, presented by BetMGM.